Hello and welcome to my channel if you're new here, and welcome back if you've been here before. In today's video I'm going to be doing an extreme clean in my bedroom. It's been a little while since I've done a cleaning video, so I thought it was due time for that. So I'm starting out in my bedroom, and this is, according to my Fly Lady app, the week to clean the bedroom thoroughly. So I'm stripping the bed down of the pillowcases and both the fitted sheet and the flat sheet. And I'm going to be also removing the duvet cover and taking off the bed skirt. So I'm starting here with taking off the pillowcases, and then I'm going for the sheets, and then after that is when I'm going to go for the duvet cover. And that's honestly probably going to be the second hardest part of everything, is not only getting that cover off, but also getting it back on afterwards. And then when I'm done getting the duvet cover off, that's when I'm going to go for the bed skirt. That one is a little bit labor intensive as well. So I'll start at the head of the bed and kind of work that down, and then pretty much go from side to side on that one and just sort of wiggle it down till it's at the end. Now that I'm done with stripping the linens off the bed and I have them in the wash, it's time to polish the bed. So I move all the pillows down in the down comforter because it's dry clean only, and I don't want any of this getting on those items. So basically I just take the mill sack that my husband loves, and I put that on a microfiber towel, and I just sort of, wipe it onto the wood and polish it. I sometimes like to use Method Wood for Good to clean it on the in-between, but I've run out of that, so it's just getting a nice polishing with the mill sack. It shines it up nicely too. I usually do the headboard, the posts, the side of the bed, and then the foot of the bed. I just do them in separate sections. Like after I do the headboard, then I'll probably usually work on the nightstands and then go to the footboard. It just depends on where I am. I try and sort of just work based off of what materials I'm using at that moment, and what's gonna get the most done in a reasonable amount of time. It's kind of time management sort of thing there. So first thing I did was start on the right side, polish the top of the headboard, polish the surface of the headboard, and then the left bed post. You don't see in this video, I also did a little bit of mill sack on the picture that is above the headboard because it's wood too, and I thought it could use a nice shine to it. Next up is my nightstand, so I'll be clearing all the books off of there and just the little random things that collect on your nightstand that you don't even realize are there until you're cleaning it off. And one of the things I took off of there was a little photo album of my daughter's pictures from when she was a baby. She's been rather fascinated with looking at the pictures of herself from when she was a baby, so I keep finding the photo album showing up in different parts of the house depending on where she's walked off with it. And this time it happened to end up in my bedroom, and I think the next time I found it, I think I found one of the photo albums because there's two of them. One was in her bedroom, and so I ended up returning both of them back to the family room with doing this cleaning. So I'm just wiping down the nightstand with the same mill sack that I used on the bed, and once I get that all nice and wiped down, I'm going to let it dry before I put anything back on it, but I'm going to get both the top and the sides and the front of the nightstand, and at one point I actually try and do a little bit of work on that lamp because it seems to be wiggling a little bit, but I was having a hard time accessing the nut that's on the inside of the bottom to screw it on tighter, so it's as tight right now as it's going to get, but I just work around it as best I can, and I shine up the nightstand and, like I said, the drawer at the top and the doors on the bottom and the sides, and get that all nice and polished up. Next is my jewelry armoire, which just takes a real quick wipe down. It doesn't get particularly dusty or messy, so I just give that a nice wipe down and get any dust that has accumulated on it off. And then after that, it'll be onto my husband's nightstand, and that one I'll be clearing off. And then the top of his nightstand has a mirror on it, so all I really have to do is move the stuff off of it and then spray that with a multi-purpose or a glass cleaner to get that clean, and then I'll mil-sec the body of that too. But yeah, I have to clear off. He likes books just like I do, so I end up taking off a nice stack of books on either side, and then he has glasses, and he has these little packs of glasses wipes that he carries with him to keep him clean. So at night before he goes to bed, he'll empty his pockets out onto the nightstand, and there's usually at least 4 or 5 packs of these glasses wipes that'll end up on the nightstand after a while. So I cleared those off, put them in a nice pile, and sometimes I'll return them to the box in his office that he keeps them in, so that way he has them all together. And then just cleared off the rest of the books, sprayed with the glass cleaner, and wiped down the mirror and get that nice and shiny and pretty again. And once I'm done clearing off the mirror, one of the things I typically do is I'll sort of wipe down the lamp itself and get any dust off of that that's either accumulated on the base on the inside, which has some tiny little crevices to get into, and I'll clear off the stems going up, the part that goes to where the light bulbs are, and then that center stem that supports the lamp, and wipe all that off. And then once I'm done with that, usually I'll move on to doing the mil-sec and polishing the wood on this nightstand. Now, since my husband's nightstand is topped with a mirror, I don't have to wait to put the items back on top of it like I do with mine. So I immediately start piling the books and his nail kit and pretty much anything else that would go back onto the nightstand, just back right onto it. Makes it a little bit easier with his because I don't have to do the weight because he has the mirror on top. So that's actually one of the benefits of his nightstand, is the ease of cleaning it. Now, like I mentioned before, I typically work in sections, so since I have the head of the bed done with the headboard being mil-seced and the nightstands being mil-seced and the top of the mirror being cleaned off, at this point I'm going to go to the foot of the bed and I'm just going to run the rag with the mil-sec on it over the various parts of the wood of the bed, because you have those spindles. So I try to get as best I can in between the spindles and get the spindles, as well as getting the top of the footboard and then the base where the spindles connect into. And I'll go over to the left post of the bed and get that mil-seced and polished. Next up is the bathroom, and I spray down the mirror and the sink, and then typically I will spray the toilet and spray the back part of that. It depends sometimes whether I go from the mirror to the sink and then spray the top part of the back of the toilet before going in to clean the toilet, or if I'll clean the toilet first. It just depends on what I'm doing at that time and what mood I'm in. In this case, I clean the top of the toilet before cleaning the toilet bowl because I use the same cloth to clean the top of the toilet as I did the sink and the mirrors. Now on days that I'm cleaning the entire toilet, like I'm wiping down the top, back, and the lid and the outside of the bowl of the toilet, I usually use the same microfiber from when I was cleaning the mirror and the sink, and then I'll just continue on and throw it in the laundry after that. But on days where I'm just cleaning the toilet bowl and the sink and nothing else, typically I'll just do the toilet separately. I'll spray inside of it and just wipe down anything like the outside of the bowl and the seat and everything with toilet paper and just flush it afterwards. And then the sink and the mirror will be its own thing with the microfiber towel. Now after I cleaned the bathroom, I realized I'd forgotten to wipe down the lampshade on my lamp, so I went ahead and sprayed that and gave that a nice wipe down because that had gotten a little bit dusty. It's not too noticeable really on that sort of lampshade, but it did hit me that it hadn't been wiped down for a while, so I made sure to go over and spray that with some of the multi-purpose spray. I like to use the Mrs. Meyer spray, and I'm particularly fond of either the basil scent or honeysuckle right now, so I just used that to wipe down the lampshade and then give the base a nice wipe down because, well, it needed it too. Okay, now that the bed has been stripped, the linens have all been washed including the bed skirt and the duvet cover, and the furniture has all had Milsec run over it, it is time to make the bed again and then put everything that was on the nightstand before, at least this one that got Milsec on top as well as on the sides, put everything back on top of there. And then I'll sweep the floor and mop it, and I'll be pretty much done with this room. Naturally, it occurred to me after the fact that I would need to actually put the stuff back on the nightstand before making the bed because I had used the bed as the place to put the stuff from the nightstand. So I decided to go ahead and clear everything off the bed real quick before making the bed. The nightstand felt like it was dry enough from the Milsec, so I didn't notice any oil residue getting onto any of my books, so it seemed to be fine. Now, instead of starting with the sheets like I normally would, because I took the bed skirt off, I'm going to put that back on first, and that'll go on pretty much the same way it came off, where I'll sort of lay it out at the end of the bed, and I just progressively pull it up from one side to the other. So I'll start on the right side, usually lift the mattress, pull the bed skirt up some, run over to the left side and lift the mattress on that side, pull the bed skirt up some more that way. Usually at some point I have to push the mattress up just a little bit more and try and tug it up in the middle, but I basically inch it up one side at a time until I get both sides all the way to the top of the bed and it's straightened out. Now it's time to put the sheets on, so I'll relocate the pillows to a spot where it's easier to maneuver around them, and same with the comforter. And I'll grab the sheet, and I typically do the corner opposites technique where you'll start at like either the upper corner or lower corner, and you'll put the sheet on that corner and then you'll stretch it down to the opposite corner on a diagonal. So you'll go from like top left to the bottom right corner and put the sheet on that way, and it is a little bit easier, it seems, to get the sheet on without too much struggle than if you say start at the left top and then go to the left bottom. The sheet seems for some reason to be a little bit more likely to just sort of pop off on you when you're trying to stretch it, but if you do it on the diagonal, it seems to stay in place better. So I usually start with the top left, go to the bottom right, and then I'll go down to the lower left and then go to the top right. And once I get the fitted sheet on, I'll either usually switch up to working on the pillows and their pillowcases, and then I'll put the flat sheet on, or else I'll go ahead and start putting the flat sheet on, then do the pillowcases. But I typically will stretch the flat sheet over the pillows when I'm making the bed and have the comforter on it. So I tend to start with the pillowcases on the pillows so the pillows are done already. But I I generally like to do the fitted and then the pillows and then the flat sheet. And I use a flat sheet because I heard this little trick that if there's any dirt on your feet, the flat sheet will protect your duvet cover from getting dirty. And that duvet cover, while beautiful, can be a pain to take on and off in order to wash. So I've used a flat sheet now for a few months since I read about that tip. And it's a really pretty flat sheet, so I'll put that on the bed, and usually I'll put the comforter on top of the flat sheet and then fold them down together. Initially I'd been folding the flat sheet down and then folding down the comforter, but then I read a tip on a homemaking group on Facebook that talked about how at the hotels they'll fold the flat sheet down with the fitted sheet, and I guess it's supposed to make a neater bed, which I do have to say they had a point, because at night when you go to get into bed, it's nice to just be able to pull them both down at once instead of having to pull the comforter down and then pull the flat sheet down some in order to get into bed. Now, if you use a duvet cover, this part probably looks familiar to you, because basically what I did is laid the comforter out on the bed, and then I'm trying to figure out how to put the duvet cover on the best way so that the snaps that fasten it closed end up on the underside at the end of the bed. So basically I ended up taking it and just sort of gathering it up and then grabbing the top of the comforter at the top of the bed and stuffing that into the corner that was in my hand and then trying to smooth it down. I had to do that on both sides, so when I went on to the other side, I was trying to figure out where the world that corner went, because I had it straightened out on the left side of the bed, and then grab the comforter, tuck that into the duvet, and just sort of slip it down. And so it's kind of like doing the bed skirt but in reverse, because I'm starting at the top of the bed and then scooting it down, pulling it onto the end of the comforter, and then grabbing from underneath the comforter itself to pull the body of it down, because while the sides are going down nicely, the rest of the comforter is not sort of stuck into the duvet yet, so I have to pull that down too, and then flip that very end part over and do the snaps to fasten it shut, and then just sort of smooth it out. So washing the duvet cover is necessary. It's just kind of a pain in the butt to put on. Taking it off is a little bit difficult, but it's nothing compared to the task of putting that thing back on. now that I'm finished with getting the bed made, it's time to move on to the sweeping part, which by all rights, this actually happened the next day. I just ran out of time that first day after stripping the bed, washing the linens, polishing the furniture, and then getting the bed remade. It ate up too much time. So while I got all that part done, I didn't get the vacuuming done until the next day. And so at this point, I'm just sort of vacuuming around the bed, around the nightstand, and I actually pull the bed out and get behind there too, because it is just amazing how much dust can accumulate behind a bed. So my first shot, I was trying to stick the actual vacuum back there, and it seemed to do okay, but not great. So I took the hose back there and then pushed the bed back and tried to remake the side of my bed a little bit and push the nightstand back. And then I went over to the other side of the bed and picked up off the floor anything that didn't belong there, which, yeah, I think there was a house slipper back there and a foam piece from the foam squares from my daughter's bedroom. And so I got those out of there and sort of just swept up to get the dust out of there. And the baseboards hadn't been washed in a while, so I got the spray and was spraying those down and wiping those down with a microfiber cloth just to get them clean, because it looked like it'd been a while, and dust makes me sneeze. Now moving on from there, I decided to pull out my husband's nightstand and vacuum behind there and also clean that baseboard, because there was a decent bit of dust back there, and I don't think it's as commonly thought of a spot to clean behind, and since I cleaned behind mine, it only seemed right to clean behind his. From there, I went over to the wall on his side of the bed and pulled out the chest of drawers, and I swept back behind there. There wasn't a huge amount of dirt back there or dust, but enough to need to vacuum back there, and I figured while I had the vacuum out, I might as well try and get up any dust that I had accumulated back there. And I also vacuumed the curtain a little bit because, well, you know, while I was there, might as well. My husband has an antique sewing machine and the table that goes with it that he inherited from his grandmother, so I decided to get down between there and the chest of drawers and try and vacuum out any of the dust that accumulated there. And it's one of those tight spots that's not so easy to get into, so I was trying to vacuum between there and then also vacuum underneath the sewing table as well. And I also made sure while I was doing the mill sec to get onto the table there and mill sec that and get that nice and shiny. And I was actually impressed with how much better the wood looked after I did mill sec that table. But the hard part was actually just sort of vacuuming underneath the pedal and behind the sewing table, which, as you'll see here in a moment, I actually pulled the sewing table out from the wall so that way I could get back there a little bit better and clean back there. From there, since I had the vacuum out, I decided to go ahead and go over and vacuum the lampshade, since that had a lot of dust on it, and that's not so easy of a task. I know I'd heard a tip before about using a lint roller, but I didn't have one, so I just tried to use the hose on the vacuum, and then after a while I put on the little pointy attachment on it so that way I could, I think it's used for crevices basically, and I thought maybe if I put a little bit of pressure it would push into the lampshade and get the dust off that just the end part of the hose wasn't getting off, and it seemed to do a decent job. I went around a few times on the lampshade trying to get all the dust off because it just seemed like a decent bit of it had accumulated on that thing, unlike on my lamp, which didn't seem nearly as dusty, but I was able to run that crevice piece over it and it seemed to take off a decent bit of the dust, and it was a good use of the vacuum while I had it out still. And for the last part of the cleaning task, I mopped the floor. I have an e-cloth mop that I like a lot, and so I got that out and I started over on the left side of the room and just started mopping that, and it's pretty much just, a U-shape for me. I start at that end and then I just sort of mop and get around to the end of the bed and back up the right side of the bed and move the pack and play around a little bit while I mop around there. And that's pretty much it for this cleaning video, so I hope that gave you some cleaning motivation to get some extreme cleaning done on your bedroom. So thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.